who we are. For too long, Africa's stories were ignored or only. Let's talk about stories, the ones that shape who we are. For too long, Africa's stories were ignored or only valued when discovered by outsiders. In 1989, a group of African writers gathered in Accra, Ghana, and said, "Enough." They founded the Pan-African Writers Association, PAWA, to unite the continent's voices. The African literary scene was fragmented, disconnected. PAWA aimed to change that. Their vision, a blueprint for unity, from Lagos to Cape Town, Timbuktu to the Serengeti. Our stories, in all their diversity, are the foundation of our identity. PAWA became the home for every African storyteller who'd ever been told their voice was too small. It was a radical act, claiming the right to tell our own stories in our own languages on our own terms. The founding of PAWA was a promise. Our stories matter, our voices are united, and we are just getting started. This was about more than literature. It was about reclaiming the narrative of a continent. The air in Accra was electric with possibility. Writers, poets, and playwrights gathered, not just to talk, but to build. They envisioned a future where every African child could see themselves as the hero of their own story. PAWA was born as a sanctuary, a megaphone, and a movement, and with that, Africa's literary uprising began. Every revolution has its heroes, and PAWA's founders were literary legends. Chinua Achebe gave us the courage to challenge colonial narratives. Atukwe Okai, Ghana's poet and PAWA's first Secretary General, turned vision into action. Wole Soyinka brought moral force and a fierce defense of human rights. Women like Ama Ata Aidu ensured African women's voices were central to the movement. Ngugi wa Thiong'o's advocacy for decolonizing African literature and promoting indigenous languages laid the ideological foundation for the creation of PAWA. His Pan-African vision and literary activism deeply influenced the association's mission to unify and empower African writers. Nadine Gordimer, a South African anti-apartheid writer and Nobel laureate, influenced the creation of PAWA through her fearless literary activism and commitment to social justice. Her international stature and bold critique of oppressive regimes inspired African writers to see literature as a liberation tool and unite under a continental body like PAWA. These founders and pioneers knew true freedom means telling our own stories, and they passed that torch to us. PAWA's mission is bold: to celebrate Africa's literature in every language and defend the freedom to write. It's about making sure a poem in Gikuyu is as valued as a novel in English. PAWA stands up for writers facing censorship or danger. If you come for one, you come for all. The oral tradition, griots, storytellers, performance poetry, is honored and preserved. PAWA fights for cultural sovereignty, building our own publishing houses, prizes, and networks. We're not just a chapter in world history. We're a library, opening our doors on our own terms. Our stories, written and spoken, are the heartbeat of our identity. PAWA is here to keep that heartbeat strong. How do you unite a continent as vast as Africa? PAWA's answer: think local, act continental. With headquarters in Accra, PAWA branches out through 5 regional arms: North, South, East, West, and Central Africa, each with its own projects and leadership. This structure lets PAWA respond to local needs, support regional festivals, and foster collaboration. It's a living network, not a top-down system, and it doesn't stop at Africa's shores. The 6th arm, WAFOD, connects the African diaspora worldwide. This model lets a poet in Mogadishu find solidarity with a novelist in Maputo. It's how we share, translate, and stand together. PAWA's blueprint turns a continental dream into reality. What about African writers abroad? Enter WAFOD, the Writers of the African Diaspora Foundation. WAFOD is PAWA's bridge to the global African family, connecting writers in London, Toronto, Atlanta, São Paulo, and beyond. It's a home for diaspora writers, offering community, mentorship, and publishing opportunities. Wayford celebrates every genre and every story because African identity is global. Whether you're a first-generation immigrant or your ancestors left centuries ago, Waford is your literary home. It's about making sure diaspora voices are woven into the Pan-African conversation. By bringing everyone together, Power and Waford make the literary family whole. Every African story everywhere has a place to shine. The legacy is powerful, but the work isn't done. African writers still face censorship, limited access, and the risk of cultural amnesia. Power and Waford are more vital than ever. Our collective voice, our shield, our platform. Join the movement. Find your regional power, connect with Waford, and don't write in isolation. Share your work, mentor others, organize readings, contribute to Africa's great library. The future of African literature is ours to build together. Your story matters. Every word is an act of reclamation. You stand on the shoulders of giants and beside thousands of writers worldwide. Pick up your pen, tell your story, join us, let's make history. Please take some time to read the accompanying blog to understand what Power and Waford truly stand for and how you can position yourself as an African writer with the gift to support growth and change. You're welcome.
Get out! Don't pretend you understand.
I would just like us to give a minute. We will be starting in a minute. I'm waiting for Dr. Okediran to join the call. So just bear with us a minute.
Hi, everyone there.
Well, I think we would like to start now, since Dr. Okediran is having some issues joining. We will carry on, and I would first of all want to say good morning to everybody on the call, and I bring you greetings on behalf of the Power Council. As the president, I want to give a special thank you to the panelists, to Mr. Carl Amper, the UNESCO country rep for Ghana, who will give us a keynote speech in a minute. I want to give you special thanks for being here present. And at this juncture, I would just like to say today, we are gathered here to explore or to carry a conversation on cultural heritage, progress, harmony, and how we can engage African youths worldwide in a bid to strengthen peace. And what a way to do it than by having the youths themselves or young African writers themselves talk about the possibilities we have. So I will not take much time. I'll call on Mr. Carl Amper to give us the keynote before we continue. Mr. Carl Amper, if you're on the call, please, you take the floor. Mr. Carl Amper? Did he just disappear? No, he's right here. Let me ask you on mute. Mr. Amper. Maybe he's having some technical glitch. Mr. Amper, can you hear us? Okay. Right. While waiting to see if Mr. Amper will join us, I would just like to, maybe go ahead. As I've said before, the theme we are exploring today is a very rich cultural theme, a theme that takes us into African or Black cultural traditions, and we are involving the dynamic youths in the conversation so that we can understand the aspirations of youths for peace and how we can shape a harmonious future for our global world. The panelists here present will bring diverse perspectives from cultures, from different cultures, from their education, to talking about peace building, the creative industries, as well as community leadership. So I would like to once again thank them. While we're waiting for Mr. Amper, I would just like to call on the panelists. I would just like to call on the panelists to introduce themselves. Let us start with Rumbi Chen. Could you just take about a minute or two to tell us about who you are, your engagement in the world of writing, your activisms, and things like that? You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Your Excellency. I'm glad to be here. I'm Rumbi Chen, which is short for Rumbi Dai Chennai. Originally, I'm from Zimbabwe, currently in the diaspora. I'm a writer and poet who focuses on women's fiction, Christian fiction, and random awesomeness. And at the helm of my writing, I value cultural preservation, because I figured if you don't know where you are from, if you don't know who you are, you will promote confusion. You won't know where you're going. Therefore, I strongly believe that as youth, as a writer, as an individual, culture should be what drives us forward. I aim to, with a background in public health, I aim to use advocacy regarding drug abuse, mental health, domestic violence in a way that is relatable. That's why I use stories and poems to show how we can all be better in our communities and the world at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that brief and succinct introduction. Why don't we move on to Ms. Justin Perfect Alo, chiming in from Ghana. Ms. Alo.
Very much, Your Excellency.
My
name is Justine Perfect Alo, and from Ghana. My writing is in personal development. I'm a personal development coach. I work with teenagers and young adults. Yes, and I'm also an author coach. My background is in social work. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Social Work and a Master of Science in International Relations. So I use my writing to guide teenagers to discover their purpose in life and to plan for success, early success in their future careers and their future personal lives. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very, very much for that brief introduction. Why don't we move to East Africa and call on Mr. Peter Wamwinchila. Mr. Peter, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Professor, I salute you.
Thank you.
And everyone in the room, my name is Goima Peter Mwamwingila Mtalimbo. And I'm a Tanzanian. I reside in Tanzania. I'm an African by birth and everything. I'm a culturist. I'm an author and also a writer. I've got a little background in diverse in legal, and so do business. But my heart is in culture and arts. So I write fiction stories mostly for children's literature as well as others. I'm also a coach in writing, specifically in fiction stories. Wonderfully enough, my stories are carrying along very beautiful patriotic messages, and I'm emphasizing on politics, culture, of course, and entertainment. That's my area of writing. And also, I'm the chairman of the Power Committee for Youth. So I think I find this discussion very relative to what I'm doing right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. And let's go to North Africa to Miss Salma Elnor, Ahmed Elnor. You have the floor. Just in about a minute or so, introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay. It's my honor really to be here with all of you. I'm Salman Noor Ahmed. I'm a Sudanese writer, novelist, and short story writer based on the UAE Emirates. In the short things I can talk about myself, I'm writing a novel and I already having the Golden Visa as Award Creative and Innovation Cultures and Art, and I already honored and recognized by Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum with my work as a volunteer in the Expo, and also choosing and publishing me in Rose Yusuf magazine as a 100 innovators, and I winning the Meliha Literary Award, my novel, and I have the second place in the International Festival in Egypt with my short story World Wound That Refused to Heal, and I get the third place even for the different competition in Saudi for Abdurrahman Abdullah Mashaqeh. And yeah, I have many things. Yeah, like something like that. And the last one, I get it within 2 days, before 2 days. It's for Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center Short Story Award. It's for the new voices in science fictions. And this is my last short story is winning. That's under name The Hall of Forgotten. And thank you so much.
Well, thanks a lot, Ms. Salma El-Noor, for that brilliant introduction. Let's hear from Mr. Sancho Mufopa.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, everyone. My name is Sancho Mufopa. I am a published novelist and writer. Background in engineering, electrical and system engineering. So my writing kind of peaks from that engineering background, but very much focuses on the untold story of those that are trapped between their African heritage and their diaspora and realities. In terms of where I'm from, I like to define myself as a Bantu American. And precisely, if that's worth noting, I'm from Cameroon, but I still believe it's better to come out as a Bantu because then I feel more, the boundary gets bigger and I connect to more people. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all for this brief introduction. As I have said earlier, our discussion centers today on a very powerful idea, which strives to seek how can African youth draw from cultural heritage while embracing the idea of progress, and in so doing, become architects of peace building locally and globally. So I would like to explore this. I would just like to open the conversation with a very general question, which you will take a minute or two each to give us your perspective. So, from your perspective, what does engaging African or Black youths for peace truly mean in today's world? And why is cultural heritage such an essential part of this engagement? You could take turns. I'm not going to call you. If you want to take the floor, just hit the floor running, and then we go from the next.
Well, Professor, you are kind of moderating.
Yes, I know. Just
give me a sense of wonder that are you also an African elder or you're not? Because in Africa,
yes,
youth are so limited. If you want to speak, they say, "Oh, now you give us the flow."
yes.
So instead,
I hear you. That's why I'm giving you the floor. I'm an elder. I'm not giving you the floor haphazardly. I said now you can talk. Since you take the floor, could you address the question? Tell us what your perspective is of engaging young people like you, right, in this discussion, and what does cultural heritage, why is cultural heritage an essential part of this discussion?
Yes. that's what I was saying, that as we Africans, we have a very different approach when it comes to youth engagement. In nowadays, youth lack the voice. So when you talk about the essential part of engaging youth in a cultural heritage, that gives me a sense of saying this is one of the very vital things that needs to be addressed boldly, okay? Because youth are the beneficiaries or the future beneficiary of this country, of this world, of this continent. Now, if at all they are not being given voice, they are not being given a freedom to test things, to innovate, to plan and execute their dreams, that means they are going to inherit something that is not of their wish. So back to what you have asked us to discuss, is this is so essential because this is a preparation of the future of the continent. Now, if you're preparing the future of the continent without involving the one who is going to live in it, to inherit, then you are doing, I can say, no job. Yeah? So, engaging the youth from the word go, from the beginning, means you are empowering them, you are giving them the title to see, to think, to feel the ownership of their culture, of their continent, of their world, of the everything. That means they will take full responsibility of their continent, of their world, of everything, including taking full responsibilities of taking care of the elders, because the elders have done their party. Now it's now time they are giving youth responsibilities. That is what I can say briefly about it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Wamingila. Let's go to the next speaker, the next panelist.
May I talk?
Yes, please.
Thank you. After my colleague's talk, Mr. Wamingila, maybe I can just say about when we are engaging African youth for peace, doesn't mean simply like give him like a seat at the table. It's mean recognizing them as a culture's leader, because in today's world, African youth face unique challenges, really not like us, like different. They have like armed conflict, like forced migrations, climate change, and many things also. But they have their own unique power. They can understand multiple language and multiple cultures and even multiple forms of expression. So cultural heritage is the key for the several reasons. Maybe we can just say like the first one, we can say the heritage give identity. When a young African understand their culture's root, they gain a strong sense of belonging. And second things we can say the heritage provide wisdom. The African cultures contain deep tradition of conflict resolutions. The third things we can say that heritage built the bridge. When young people from different backgrounds participate in a cultural celebrations as a music festival or art or anything like that, they really can make miracles. So therefore, engaging African youth for peace means recognizing them, their values, equipping them with tools like including cultural heritage and trusting them to lead the way. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I see Mr. Sancho Mufopa has the hand up. You take the floor.
All right. So, in regards to the question, how to engage the youth, the African youth, in terms of talking about peace, I will, tag along what the other speakers have said. First and foremost, I think we need an African definition of youth, right? So it's very common you hear a youth is from, I think this is 7 to 77 or 7 to 70. It's high time that from an African context, we say, hey, it's from 7 to 45, 7 to 30, whatever, but let's shrink it down so that people become more accountable. And then take the discussion from, the NGOs, boardrooms, from the international organization, bring that peace discussion to classrooms. What I mean by that is we should start having in our curriculum discussions about peace. I doubt if you go out and ask most of my peers and younger Africans what peace is, the first reaction will be they think peace is just the absence of war, when peace is even more than that. So we need to bring that discussion to the classroom. And in addition to that, the other thing I think that needs to be done is understand that the cultural heritage is important because the only way you secure an understanding of something is when it becomes part of your culture. You know, you can talk about peace in classroom, you can talk about peace wherever, but if you don't make it part of the culture, then it will fade away. What I mean by that is repeating unendingly the importance of peace. As a matter of fact, I like to think about and that's probably common in many countries, the Nigerian policy where you have a mandatory youth service when you graduate from high school, when you graduate from college, before you can get into the workforce. If we really want to implement that talk of peace, one of the things will be like making mandatory that you participate in the peace project before you can engage in the workforce. So you go with the understanding that peace is primordial, it's important in all you do. So I think defining the range, then making sure everywhere we turn around, there is a talk about peace is one of the ways we can take to get the African youth and the diaspora engaged in peace.
Wow. Thank you very much. I see Ms. Chen had the hand up. You take the floor.
Thank you. I just want to add on, it's been noted that the youth are busy struggling other things, then they forget that they're youth. My main worry is that the youth are not empowered. To engage youth is to let them have the agency. We have fought for agency, maybe we have been given agency, but the issue is we've seen policy documents saying the youth are doing this and that. But on the ground, the youth are not enabled. The youth are in fear. There is politics coming in, crippling the youth engagement in activities of peace. So if we could have real agency enforced, not just in terms of policy, let us do what we do in peace as well. Let us do what we do without any interference, whether it's politics or economic influence. Another thing is the youth in Africa currently, particularly in Zimbabwe, we are fighting unemployment. How can you talk of peace? How can you engage in activities of peace? Peace means justice, social cohesion, inclusion, dignity, etc. How can we engage when the fundamentals are not in place? So those in leadership should enable the youth to have the actual flow. Then we can reclaim our agency and engage in activities of peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hello, let's hear from you.
Thank you, Prof. Indy. I've been listening to everybody and it's very interesting. You know, this webinar and this theme is very timely because we are at a point where when we want to follow culture, our way of life, it was always a matter of taking instructions. So it's patriarchal and your father says this, that is what you do. It was a boss-servant order. But now, because of education and advancement in technology, we have been empowered to the point where the youth now had a voice. Previously, the youth did not have a voice, but now we have a voice, and all of us here have one thing in common, and that is storytelling and writing. So I believe we are having this conversation at the right time so that we can use our stories to drive peace instead of war, because people write for different reasons, for entertainment, for love, for different reasons. But this, you know, Africa one of our major challenges is war. So if we can use writing as a tool, both writing and storytelling as a tool to solve this problem, which I believe we can, then we are at the right place and at the right time. And the good news is, Power has created a youth desk. Yes, so that's one thing Power is doing in the right direction. Power has created a youth desk, and I am secretary of that youth desk. And there are initiatives that there are plans we have that together we can work on so that we promote peace in Africa, among other things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And this actually takes me to my next question, because I realize that many young Africans are reshaping cultural traditions. Like you're talking about, what connects all of you together is the fact of storytelling. And I just want to let all on the call to know that if you don't tell your story, somebody else will tell the story for you. And this next question I have for you is, when you use this, when you reshape this cultural tradition in very creative ways, how can these reinterpretation become tools for peace rather than sources of conflict? Because the way you tell your stories, how do you tell your stories in a way that we see you are working towards peace? So I will open the floor again to you to take turns and give me your reflections.
Thank you very much. I think I'll go first on this one.
All right.
So one of the elements of culture is language. And, sometimes we can communicate the right thing in the wrong way. And it will go wrong, even though we want to communicate the right thing and get the right results. But we have to mind our language. So if we want to use our creativity and storytelling to shape our narratives so that they are not a source of conflict, of course, if anything you want to change, whenever you want to bring about change, there's going to be resistance. But there's a way to go around it so that nobody feels threatened. I'll always refer to the home. Sometimes we as children in the house, we have wonderful ideas, but sometimes our parents are not interested in the ideas we have, even though the ideas can bring about the positive results we want to see. So there are ways we can go around it. Sometimes instead of you saying it, you can find somebody your parents listen to, maybe their mentor or an elder. Share your ideas with that person. Then that person will now channel it to your parents and they will appreciate it. So sometimes I think we have to think outside the box with our storytelling. That is one thing I am doing here in Ghana currently. As part of my writer coaching and ghostwriting service, I have a target audience that I'm working with. And the goal is, I have ideas, but the change I want to make, I am not at a level where I can make that change. So what I am doing is looking for people in that space who can make that change, who can effect that change easily, work with them, and it gets done. So I believe that this is one way we can get it done. So I'll stop here and allow my other panelists to go. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, Ms. Chen.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for saying that language plays an important role there. And to quote, Professor Bill normally says that our stories, we need to continue our oral stories, that's how we bring them forward. And with that in mind, culture survives and evolves through creative expression. through storytelling. How do we do that? Creative voices anchor and promote peace and healing, because art creates dialogue without violence. We can challenge norms peacefully. We can express our anger, our hope against certain issues or promote certain issues through spoken word, short stories, fashion, music festivals, and dance. If you see, for example, there was a youth festival, it's called Art Culture, and then people of all walks of life, from all walks of life, and they promote indigenous Zimbabwean languages as well. They're invited to just come and impromptu, do whatever you want, say whatever you want, without fear, without being judged, right? So if we have more of those activities where the youth just come and express themselves, you notice people forget their differences. In that way, we are using art to promote peace, to encourage peace. So activities such as fashion, musical festivals, dance, they are the vehicles that we can use. I just want to give an example at the recently concluded AFCON. There was a musician, I won't mention his name. Why was there music there at a football place? Because art buries that divide that brings challenges and differences to our lives. So we just need to continue telling our stories in whichever form. And yeah, we see. I think pretty much that's it for now.
Thank you very much for that reflection. Let's continue.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please. Yeah. If you want to make something, mix it like our traditional with the new what we are living in, it's not like betrayal our heritage. It's just like to become continuous living in this world by different way. Let's talk about music or writing or visual art. Some music, like young African, they take the traditional rhythm and belong them with the hip hop and electronic music, and it's be more spirit with the millions of people on the social media, on TikTok, on YouTube, or anything like that. And even for visual writing, the artist now is used like differentiate from the traditional identity to the new making, to new generations, to move on in this world. And about writing, and I think all of us are writing, we know how it's very important to writing to keep our heritage for the new generations in different way, because the generations have different mind of us. We are just trying to make a new connection with them with different way as they like, unfortunately not like our idea, because now we're facing different problems. Like in a small example, in my house, I'm a Sudanese, I living in different country in Dubai, but my kids now, their mood is going to Eastern, to Korean, to Japanese, to China. It's different, and misunderstanding a lot is coming between us. So I'm trying to find like 1.1 to be peace with me and them, and to be continue with that. And yeah, thank you. That's all.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Sanchon.
Yes, sir. So I really enjoy what Salma just mentioned about um, making sure it's inclusive, making sure when the new comes, it does not erode the new, the kind of blend. Because one of the things about the new creative ways that we use to promote peace, or at least to reshape our discussion around peace, sometimes the problem is the negative aspect of it. I'll take the case of social media, where sometimes you have hate speeches that pop up here and there. One way to kind of avoid that is for those who are more in the formal side of writing, so writers and all the rest, to be very inclusive, to be very flexible, and to always be very careful as how we use our words. I like to take this example, and over the time, if you grew up listening to oral stories or even reading stories from other authors in Africa, the world at large has come to believe the lion is the king of the jungle, right? How many people know the lion doesn't live in the jungle? Very few, but because writing has made people to believe the lion lives in the jungle, we've come to accept that. And I think if we write and insist on the good things, it would flood all the negative comments, and the creativity will be more like a tool. Say, for example, I'm writing a book about Sudan, right? I will intentionally choose to depict the positive side of Sudan. Not because I ignore anything that's happening, but I know how far my voice carries. And by doing that, that's one way to tell the world we have all these tools, but we're deciding how we want to use them. We want to use them positively. I will also tag a little bit on what Ms. Chen said about the AFCON that just finished. She mentioned something. If she's the only person you've encountered, you have immediately a good idea of what the AFCON was. But if you go on social media, you see a lot of ranting going lately right now because of, some failure of sportsmanship and all the like. But just the fact that she has focused on the positive of it makes us in this panel, if you hadn't watched the AFCON, your mind goes to, wow, that was a great thing, right? So I think that creativity should be intentional. Creativity is spontaneous, true, but the way you channel it should be very intentional. There's a difference between the one who makes um, a machine to excavate a road to, a far location versus one who makes that same machine to blow up places. So it's all about how we channel that creativity and, install some sort of censorship to make sure that those who try to go astray are either pushed away or flooded by the overwhelming good news that the others bring to the floor.
Yeah, all right.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Peter.
Yeah. All those previous contributions are great to the extent that like I'm running out of what to say. So at least I'd like to add something that the word peace has been mentioned several times. So I've got my very own definition of what peace is. Then I'll connect with what you've been asked here. What I believe is peace is a language of love. It's a caring for one another. It's a respect humans and their boundaries. It's a call for communal ownership of economy. So at least it's the fruits of economics being shared with all the community. So all these things for me, if are taken care of, very nice. That means peace will prevail. Now, these young who are shaping the cultural, the traditional in a very creative way, but if they don't understand peace, maybe they'll reshape it negatively. Okay, if they're not been understanding what other parts of the world is doing, if they're not connected, if you don't give them the task to think, to suggest, to digest, and to make their ideas, their art being vibrant, then maybe instead of reshaping it to the better way, they will reshape it negatively. So what I believe is art is a powerful tool for reshaping, for making things better, should go along with all that meaning of peace. If these two things go simultaneously, parallelly, pace in pace, that means we can have a very good future, which has been reshaped by the work of youth into culture in a creative way. So creative is there, but how do we use it? That becomes another thing. So thank you so much for previous contribution. That is mine to add. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. My eyes is on the clock, but this is what I'm going to do. I had a lot of questions to ask you, but I see that you are so fired up. If I have to ask all of the questions, we might spend the whole day here. I will ask about 2 other questions. Then I would leave the floor for Q&A, because I'm sure those who are listening to you, they too have their own questions and their own reflections on what is happening as far as this theme is concerned. So I would like to ask you as the next question to just advise us, give us some practical steps that institutions like UNESCO, POWER, the Pan-African Writers Association, governments, schools, NGOs can actually take to ensure that young people engage in a meaningful way and not merely a symbolic way. I think it is Ms. Olowu who did talk of the government having things in paper, but on the ground, it is not really that. So I would like you to reflect on that, just help enlighten us on what things we could do to make that happen. The
Thank
floor
you
is
very
open.
much,
Yeah.
Prof. Bill. Yes, so I'll say one thing about that. I think one thing which is major that institutions should do consciously is to involve the youth in designing policies that affect the youth. So the agencies should not impose policies on the youth. Rather, we should be part of the designing process, which means that when there's a committee, youth representatives have to be on that committee. For instance, for peace, there has to be youth representatives, especially as writers, because writing is a major tool that we use to shape the world. Like my brother Mufopa was saying, writing, you can tell he's writing about Sudan. He can choose to paint Sudan as a gloomy nation or Sudan as a prosperous nation based on the choice of his words. So similarly, when organizations are making decisions that affect the youth have to be represented. That way, the youth feel part of the process and they can effectively work to achieve their agenda. So whatever decisions government or institutions like UNESCO and POWER are taking, the youth have to be part of it. And POWER has done that. POWER has created a youth desk, and the youth, we are also going to bring our bit on board so that we take POWER to the next level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, please,
You're
if you
welcome.
allow me just to complete with my friend says, if I can choose something, I just choose to contribute with the school practice, because the giving youth a seat but not a real voice is like actually more harmful than no engagement at all. It's create disappointment and distrust. So if we can start from the school, because the one built for the kids, it's like don't read African history, just an add-on subject. I want to make it as central to every subject, and to teach peace and dialogue and give the youth voice to decision making, and allow students to lead project and make real decision about what they want to study and how they want to learn them. If we can make this bridge, because it's like, if I want to add something small, I'm just working in my small, what I can do. I'm not a government, also NGO, nothing like that. So we can start from our families, from our kids, to trying to fill the gap between generations. Because if anyone have a case, that's of course we have a gap generation between them that lead to misunderstanding anyway. So if we trying to talk a lot, to sitting and do understanding dialogue with them, we can make it very smaller and we can go for the peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go to East Africa before we go to Zimbabwe. Mr. Wamenjela.
Thank you so much. Just to add, like my fellow had said, well, I was asking myself, you asked us, and I was asking myself, so that the public also could hear this. can we have senior junior leadership, senior junior economic ownership, senior junior movement, senior junior writing, arts, this every place in every task in the world should be senior alongside junior. That means elders alongside youth. That means if we work together, we both feel the growth, we both face the obstacles, we resolve together. That togetherness is what youth need so that they can also mature just like senior people. So I was thinking about that. Even if we make policies in the UNESCO, like my secretary said, power has seen that in the previous General Assembly. And now this year they launched the Committee for Youth. So that means power is doing that, youths are going alongside. That means by the time Professor B say, oh, I think I have a lot to do with my grandchildren, my granddaughters, that means those youths will take part without being late, and they understand the process. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Ms. Chen, you have the floor. You're muted. You're muted.
Okay, sorry. We need to do away with this tokenism. The youth need agency, not instructions. The youth need support, visibility, and protection from political marginalization. And I'm asking myself, why are we having this tokenism and this lack of so-called spaces for youth, safe spaces? It's because the elders, maybe they don't trust the youth. Maybe from the history, the youth have been told you have done so and so, it was not successful. Why not then the elders become the mentors, not the drivers of these initiatives? We can work together, but just be in the background to guide us and let us lead these issues. That's my small take because everything has already been said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mufopa?
Yeah, so I was a little bit evasive in my thoughts here, but I wanted to raise that whole discussion of the joint force, and I wanted to bring two examples to light. The first one is from one of our great authors, Amadou Ampateba, who's of Malian origin. But what I found is the way he showed the link between youthfulness and wisdom. He kind of broke down the life cycle into 7 years, right? When you're 0 to 7, you're being nursed. When you're 7 to 14, you observe. When you're 14 to 21, you practice, you train. When you're 21, so in every phase of that, there was something you trained the youth because you knew they were going to take up after you. So I think that's one thing that is deeply buried in the African culture, which we've kind of neglected. But if we return to our roots and do that, prepare every child for the next level, we kind of already, passing on that notion of peace and all what we want to the youth. And then about having youth involved, that is well said. It's really important to have them involved, whether it's at discussions and policy making. But I will also want to take an example where in some of the Bantu cultures, when you are of age and you're about to leave your parents' house, usually your father has a symbolic present for you. But here's the catch. He doesn't tender it to you. You have to kind of take it away from him as a show of, I'm ready to do it on my own. And that reminds us of one thing. I think every panelist here who has any idea of what it means to be a country that went from maybe colonialism to independence, all the independence fighters were youthful people. They were young people. I don't know of any independent fighter who was an old person. So one of the things we have to do is fight for it. We can ask, but they can only give us as much as they can give. And by fighting, I don't mean violent fight, okay? But I mean like standing up for what we believe in, taking it with authority. And as Mr. Peter was saying, there's also that idea of one way of taking it is shadowing those who are leading. shadowing those who are leading. Always be there, learn from them, because life has a way of coming around. And when it does come around, the youth in place should be able to break the stereotype and prove that us, the youth, can do it. So when the chance comes, we should be ready. It shouldn't come and, well, we've been waiting for them to hand it to us. No, we have to be there working with them. So when the time comes, either we take it because nature hands it to us, or because the senior pass it over to us, or simply because the opportunity has come and we took the opportunity in time. So that's what I had to say.
Wow. Thank you very much for that contribution. I will ask the last question, and I want to thank the audience for their patience. Let's just take this last round of questions, and then I open the floor for Q&A, because it is a wonderful treat you are giving us. And I'll just need to remind us that we are holding this discussion because today is a very special day for Africans and Afro-descendants, which most people might not know. It is recorded in the United Nations and UNESCO as the World Day of African and Afro-descendant cultures. So we are here celebrating this idea of culture and trying to see how we can bring our youths on board and how they can do. And I'm very delighted. The last panelist speaks of Hamadu Apatemba demonstrating what traditional Africa used to be like, where youths were not left to their own. They were educated at every stage. And it reminds me of something. Where I teach, I always believe that there is something wrong with us, in the sense, not with us, with the systems. We are using systems that are foreign to us. The system of education is foreign to us. And because it is foreign, we cannot incorporate some of the beautiful things you guys have illustrated here, which will help the young people realize they actually need to be learning from the elders to move to that next level. So I would like to circle and ask the last question, which would be, if you could redesign one aspect of cultural or civic education to better prepare young people for leadership, what would it be? Share with us.
I'll go.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Prof. Hindi. So if I have the opportunity, one thing I'll change is to retell, I'm in Ghana, so I'll talk about the Ghanaian story from the Ghanaian perspective. Like you said, education is foreign to us. We have our own form of education, but the formal structured education is foreign to us. So I would want us to retell our story our way, so that our children can learn the story, as it were, from their forefathers, so that they can learn the lessons, the reasons behind the decisions that were made, and the reasons behind the various cultural practices. That way, our children will grow up to have an understanding of their culture and make better decisions based on the understanding of their culture. Thank you very much.
Very much. Mr. Mufopa, next.
Thank you very much. So my contribution to what I think can be modified will be the way we use the different media, especially the movie industry, to talk about the things that concern Africans. I like to, and I think everyone in this audience will identify themselves. I like to go back to this very famous blockbuster, Wakanda, right? Black Panther, which for most people, it just looks like it's fiction. But each of the panelists here with an African background will probably identify something about their culture that was borrowed and used in that movie. My point being, we should work more on having inclusive discussion, inclusive way of projecting a desire for peace. I'm particularly addressing maybe my Ghanaian sister because the Ghanaian movie industry is doing great, but I want to think every African nation has a good movie industry. It's time for the Ghanaian, the Sudanese, the Tanzanian movie industry to make movies that span out of that borrow something from Nigeria, that borrow something from South Africa. So now when we start learning about each other through those media, right? And because that's one thing the youths love, entertainment, that is where you catch them. For those who believe in the good book says, where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be. The youth are into entertainment. You want to get them, meet them at the entertainment level and dispense the knowledge you want them to have. And unfailingly, after they've been hooked up to Black Panther, then a series of other movies that speaks of a better world when we are together, then peace will be a natural thing. It will literally grow by itself. So that's what I had to add.
Oh, thank you very, very much. Mr. Peter Wamwinjila.
Well. One, at least one, because there's so many, but one is to declare that Africa is not poor and shall never be poor, and it was not poor from the day one. Because nowadays you can see somebody tell me he's from Tanzania, say, I'm going to see green pasture. Green pasture where? Africa is the greenest. Africa is everything. Africa is the mother of the world. Now, because of our politicians, they are feeding us this poor news that Africa is poor. If your father tells that your family is poor, your land is poor, that means you have to go away looking for wealth. But if he tells you that this land is rich, that means you don't go nowhere. You stick there and find some solutions. So if it's a work of art, should address that. Politics should address that. Policies, everything. Even the preachers should say that this is where God made the richest man on earth. That is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, let's move on.
Yes.
I think I still have two panelists. Yeah, okay. Ms. Salma.
Yeah, I agree with all my colleague is saying. Is something really fantastic. I can't change anything, but if I want to choose or I do something, maybe I can. I hope to increase the more integrations dialogue, because the harmony comes from dialogue, not from choice. And when you sit with the elders and share their ideas instead of one judging the others, something magical will happen. And elders understand that youth are not trying to erase heritage. Youth understand that elders are not trying to stop progress. So the true harmony will come from understanding that traditional and modernity are not opposing forces, but they are a part of the same journey. So the young African today are guardians of our heritage and innovators at the same time. So that's our rule. I'm just trying to increase our dialogue each others with the big understanding. And we hope so something good happen. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Wow. Okay, Ms. Chen.
Thank you. In agreement to what has been said by all the other panelists, I would just want to say that cultural literacy needs, that's what I would add. From an early age, once school starts, we need to promote cultural literacy in all its different facets. And as the youth are growing. We see people are into games, social media. Let's take that cultural literacy and embed them in those, like the TikToks and the Instagrams, etc., and the games. How many games do we have in our own native languages or indigenous games on digital platforms? I don't think there could be some. I know Dr. Jing is working on a Afro-descendant game. That would be a good thing. How many of those do we have? So if we could just take cultural literacy to where the youth are spending their time in, that's what I would urge people to do. And just to close off, I want to quote what Pope Francis Muzofa said. He's a Zimbabwean poet in Namibia. He said, "Sheep and goats are small livestock that normally share crow and grazing pastures, but it will be taboo if a sheep starts to behave like a goat, and vice versa. Sheep remain sheep and goats remain goats." Thank you.
Thank you very, very, very much for that very brilliant closing remark. And it is a call, actually, for most of us in the audience to remember that not to forget where we're coming from, that we remain who we are. We have to reclaim our identity. So at this point, I would like to open the floor to the audience, and I will plead that if you are in the audience and you have a question for our panelists, come on camera, please, to ask your question. If you don't want to come on camera, type your question on the chat. I will gladly read the question for you. So the audience, this is your time to ask questions, make comments. The floor is open for questions. Raise your hands. You will be called up on the floor. Send your question on the chat. No comments? No questions? I'm still waiting. We have a comment. I enjoyed the presentation from Dr. Shaw. So, well, thank you, Dr. Shaw, for that remark. We need to hear more questions. Well, while waiting for the audience to frame their questions, I will ask one question that has been any of you could answer or all of you could answer, right? Because I know one of you did talk about technology or the digital platforms. We know technology gives African or Black youths worldwide an unprecedented visibility. So, according to you, how do you think Black youths could use these platforms to amplify their voices in the global peace building process without eroding cultural authenticity? Ms. Chen?
Thank you. I would say let us use these platforms, whether it's live streaming, etc., in our own languages, first of all, in our own traditional ways. Be it, we have games like Nodo in Zimbabwe and Maflau. Those are like indigenous games. Why not have those on? Why we should not imitate? I see most of us, we are imitating what is in the West. Why not use our own traditions, our own stories passed down from our elders, we can use those to the world. The world will listen the same way we are listening to the world. That's my take. Let's be authentic. Let's use our own stories to tell our own. Let's use our own stories to tell our stories. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mufopa?
Yeah, so one way to use those media, I will take an example here, is to break the platform boundaries. What I mean by that is I have come to discover authors that I wouldn't have known if I wasn't on social media. Let me explain myself. I have a collection of books that talk about Sundiata Keita, Queen Amina, which I was always pondering, how can I teach my kids about those things, right? But because they took the time to create trends on social media, I was able to find those authors and buy those books. We have to understand that there is more to this new technology than just dancing or making lives, which are good. I have no issue with that. But I want for us writers and for young writers to understand publishing on Amazon is one thing, but making sure that that publication is in groups and visible is the other thing. For all of us here who've written, at least I speak for myself, the hardest part isn't really to write. When you're done writing, is to get people to read. And occasionally you have people say, what is your book about? And you have two choices. Either you tell them the whole story, or you give them a kind of a synopsis that will make them want to read. But because the place where we meet people is on social media today, we, the writers, have to start being very active. Occasionally post things about your works on social media. It's not just about doing marketing, but it's also about making people want to hear about your story. Do the little reels, the little shorts on YouTube, make it known. We have these broad platforms. So if you're in the writer niche, if you're in the traditional writer niche where you publish, join the bandwagon that is on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, don't only do your TikTok stuff, try to put it on writings and join the group that is doing the traditional writing. I think cutting across those platforms not only widens the audience, but follows a trend, because what you notice with this generation is when the next social media comes, they will all run away from it and go to the next. So if you're in Facebook and you've never thought of going to Instagram or TikTok, at some point in time, you'll be alone on Facebook. So we have to be cutting across those platforms, not just having one technological niche, but trying to break through all of those as a way to reach a larger audience. So that's one way to use the technology.
Thank you very much. We have now comments and questions on the chat. I have from Dr. Hicks. She says, hi, I'm a student of Dr. Ndi's. I just want to say this was an amazing presentation. I am truly inspired. And we have from Dr. Cromer, who asked, what was the hardest thing for the panelists to start as a new writer? So any of you could answer. You could take just 30 seconds each and tell them your greatest challenge as a young and an upcoming writer.
Hello?
Is Miss Chen go? Okay, Miss Chen, you go ahead.
Okay, in 30 seconds, the greatest one was the criticism to say, what's the value in writing? But I write because I enjoy writing. I love writing. I love reading. So just that criticism, I had to pass that hurdle. And you had to shut the voices of the criticizers because you know your why. I knew my why. And I managed to go past that because I stood true to my why. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wangwinjila.
Yes, we grow up being told that my father is an economist. My father is a doctor. My father is that. My mother is that. Nobody mentioned my father is an author. So missing that is a very hard time for a new writer or new author to start it. Because if you have met a lot of doctors, then you can measure how beautiful to a doctor to be is that. So I think that is the very word. So you have to beat it yourself that I want to be an author and stick to authoring because I have something to offer to my society. That's it.
Yeah, I just added with my friend Mamungela when he said that. I think the hardest thing you feel when you start a new writing, the similar thing, as I believe in myself as I'm a writer, as I believe to be a writer, that's the big questions. So if you step and start one by one, you'll be like that. Just trust in yourself and your issue and your what you want to write to be.
Thank
Well,
you.
I want to add my own perspective is when writing goes along with maybe another career. In my case, you work as an engineer and you want to find time to write. It makes your work span a longer period of time, right? And one of the challenges was always maybe for the next 2, 3 weeks, I'm carried away by work and I've stopped writing. Every time I came back, I had to kind of read what I had written before in order to make it make sense. Otherwise, you might have a discontinuous story. And believe me, the weirdest part is sometimes you read and you realize you had given a personality to a character that you almost forgot you had given them that personality. So if you don't read, you might have like characters with multiple personality in your story. So that was my biggest challenge, always going back and rereading my work just because I need to know what I said 2 weeks ago so I can write the next chapter. So
Okay. Thank you. And let me add mine, Prof.
Okay, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
know we are out of time, but my
No,
challenge, one of my
we
major
have many more
challenges was
questions on the chat, so just go ahead.
okay. So one major challenge is funding. And what I've learned is to treat my writing as a project and save towards it. So that's what I'll say. Yes, you have a funding challenge. We don't have traditional publishers in Africa. So start, if you have plans of publishing or getting published or writing, start saving towards it. Like you're saving for your house or your car or whatever it is you want to get. Start saving towards your publishing goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that takes us to Dr. Thompson's question. Where do you publish your writing to make sure it reaches the right audience?
So it goes back to your target audience. You have to know before you write, you have to know your target audience and where to find them. So if you know who you are writing for and where to find them, then getting the material out to them is easy. I write for teenagers and young adults. So they are in schools mainly and on social media. So if I put it on Amazon or my website, I also make sure I get my works to them in the schools. Then it's effective. But if you just write and leave it on the shelves, now the good and not so good news is many people don't go to physical libraries or bookshops, but they are always on their phone or they are in their institutions. So you have to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Wangwinjila, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. That's a question is much broader, so I'd like to add something on that. Well, I'll take the community back to where I think should be treated like. We authors are arts people. We are artists, okay? Now, being an artist sometimes limits you to know what the business is, okay? We are not different from football players, from actors, actresses, something like that. But how do other artists managed? Is because they have managers. Now, I've also been telling my students in writing that because you have a talent, you have gold, you have tanzanite, you have ruby. Okay, you yourself is a ruby, it's a tanzanite, it's a gold. Now, what you have to do is to find somebody who is competent now in business. He's the one who do some research, where to send your work, where to publish, what your contract will be. So it's good if we youth or other authors make a group, because having a book, like Madam Justina said, is a project. Now, if it's a project, it needs a project manager. it is an accountant, it's a marketer, a PR, and everything. At least you remain with the work of crafting your art of work and let the others do their part so that you all together goes on you reach a wider range, getting some wealth and everything, respect and everything. I think that works much better. So let's use our professionals in marketing. They can help us. But if you don't have one, then go to traditional. At least start a small, then you go big. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was brilliant. We have a few other questions on the chat. I'll read them, and then we can answer and try to round up so that people can run and go eat their lunch. The question comes from Keon, who says, what should the youth look out for when engaging with their entertainment platforms? That is, understanding that there are tons of misinformation about our culture. Mr. Fopa, or Musa Mufopa, yeah?
So I really like the highlight about misinformation, because that's one thing modern communication platforms has unfortunately failed to control. Anybody shows up, as someone says, anybody with a phone and a data bandwidth is all of a sudden an influencer, a reporter, a writer. That's the bad side, is we can easily get misinformed. But one way to make sure we get informed, it's all about joining, and it could be virtual, but joining groups of people who have the same interest. You cannot know about Ghana by just looking about Ghana online. Venture and show up at a Ghanaian festival. The Ghanaians will tell you all you need to know about Ghana, right? You cannot, I cannot sit here and all I do is go on Al Jazeera or go on CNN and think I will know all there is to know about Sudan. But I know if I talk to Salma, for example, she'll give me a real reality of what Sudan is about. So yes, you get exposed to these things on platform, but find platforms where the people or people in that domain meet together and share. And then you'll be able to refine the misinformation from the reality. One thing we need to underscore here is today, data and information are the most valuable things. Whoever controls that controls the narrative, controls the way people think, and controls the way people react. So you have to purge your mind of those negative things by looking for the authentic information. And it doesn't get any more authentic than going to the source. And finding the source online is easy. Start looking for groups. There's one thing about communities in the world. Every community has a sense of hospitality, especially when you are curious about their culture and not stereotypical. They are willing to give you the real information. So that's what I had to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's get this last question for Ms. Chen. It comes from Dr. Brown, says, hello, everyone. I loved the conversation. I have a question for Ms. Chen. How does the youth unemployment in Zimbabwe affect how they will use their passion to create change? Could you speak to that?
There are many reasons. I will summarize due to time. Because of unemployment, the youth have turned to drugs in Zimbabwe as a form of escape. How are you going to create anything when you are now practically a zombie? There is meth. It's a public health issue right now, drug abuse due to unemployment. And two, how do you fund your practice? Whether it's music, visual arts, how do you practice that when you can't fund it? That all limits your creative power. And two, when you're hungry and all the domestic issues, the crime rates that are going on, how do you even get the time to create? That's how unemployment is affecting creativity, because it has not become a priority. It's now a luxury. And that's it. I want to give two examples. We have prominent musicians and prominent visual artists. We have gone into decline. They are now drag I don't want to say drug addicts, they are now users of drugs to the point of they need rehabilitation because they could not sustain their livelihoods. You see, that's how bad the situation is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So before we round up, I would just like to, before I give my concluding or closing reflections on what we've heard, I would just like for you to take about 10 seconds each and give us a closing remark. If there is one thing you want the audience to take away from you, what will that be? Just take turns and tell your audience something.
I'll start. Thank you. Peace isn't only the absence of violence, it includes justice, inclusion, social cohesion, dignity, all rooted in our cultural heritage through values. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I'd like to go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to quote our founder, father of the nation, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere once said, a nation without culture and traditional is a dead nation. So I urge everybody at your own capability to make sure that culture is preserved, traditional is preserved, because that is the backbone of every country. It's the backbone of everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next.
Yes.
My final words. I'll say that let's repurpose our creativity for peace instead of conflict. No matter what happens, let's partner with the right people, ask for the necessary help, and use our creativity as tools for peace and prosperity. And like Peter said, Africa is the greenest. So let's stop going out to look for greener pasture. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, my last word would be like, be yourself, be honest, be patient to understand each other's, because me and you and all of us, we are just a part of the same journey. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will conclude with the words of a really great actress, Felicia Rashad, which says, because a child thinks before they can talk and they draw before they can write, we all have artistry in us and creativity in us. So all of us in the panel, those listening in the audience, those at home with you, everybody has a contribution to bring, and it is time. Today is time, not tomorrow. You want to start today and bring your own contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I would now let me bring my closing reflections. I really want to thank you all for your contribution, because from listening to all of you, the conversation just reminds us that peace, you have said it, all of you have said it in one way or another, is not merely the absence of conflict. And you have also pointed out that peace is about the presence of cultural pride, creative expression without constraints, intergenerational understanding with youths who are empowered. So I would like to thank you again and remind all young people from the African continent and across the African world that you have reminded us a number of things. Progress and heritage are not opposing forces. That cultural identity can actually anchor young people as they pursue both writing and civic engagement. And that even if Africans and Afro-descendants youths are at the crossroads of tradition and transformation, they can still leverage technology to navigate spaces that seem unnavigable. And as I conclude this conversation, one truth comes out of your conversation very clearly, that Africa is not only the greenest, does not only have the greenest pasture, but Africa's greatest resource is not its minerals, it is not its markets, not its land, but its youth. Because you young Africans and Afro-descendants carry the stories that are older than empires, than dreams, and those stories are enough to reshape the future of humanity. And I just want to thank you for giving us proof, right, that you are at the intersection of both cultural heritage and possibility. And I think that is the most powerful place to be for a Black man in this 21st century. I would rest it there. And I don't know if Dr. Wale Okediran finally joined the call, but if he did not, I would like to call it a day at this point. Thank you guys very much. And thanks for those in the audience. I would have to pause the recording. I did see some questions.